A little-known chapter in American history gets told in Hidden Figures, which goes wide this weekend, and we've got the review right here on Screen Junkies News.
Catherine, we all gonna end up unemployed riding around in this pile of junk.
You're welcome to walk the 16 miles.
Oh, sit in the back of the bus.
Kiss me up.
You have identification on?
We're just on our way to work at NASA, sir.
I had no idea they hired.
There are quite a few women working in the space program.
Hi, I'm Dan Merle.
And I'm Roth Cornett.
And we're here with a review for Hidden Figures, which opened at the end of 2016 for Oscar consideration, but that is rolling out wide this weekend. And Roth, I think we both agree this is a chapter of American history that, number one, we didn't know, and that, number two, needs to be exposed to a lot more people.
Yeah, absolutely. I was speaking earlier with our very own Charlie Feldman, and we were both saying we felt like our school system had failed us. That I almost can't believe I didn't know about these women before. And I'm so glad that the film has come out now, because now we get to learn about it for those of us who didn't know. And it is baked into a very entertaining film.
It is. And for those that don't know the premise of the movie, Hidden Figures covers the story of Katherine G. Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson, the three African-American women who, in different areas of NASA, were really instrumental in the space race. This takes place in the early 60s. Long before we put a man on the moon, it's when we were getting beaten by Russia handily in the space race. And their struggle for NASA to both catch up and figure out a way to put a man, in this movie John Glenn, in orbit. Going into it, I didn't even know that this was a true story. The Imitation Game, I feel like that was a story where for so long Alan Turing went unheralded and you did not know his place in history. Katherine Johnson won the Presidential Medal of Freedom. These are women whose work has been heralded, but their story has really not been told.
That is sort of the interesting thing for me, too, about this film. And typically speaking, I'm not a huge fan of biopics, right? Because I think that there's a lot of limitations to how you tell those stories. The ones that I like are generally ones that just sort of focus in on a moment, like Amadeus, right? Is one of my favorites. But I thought this story was so well told. There's some great acting here, and it is an important story, and the best thing that happens is that you can hope for is that you go out afterwards and you look up information about these people, which is exactly what I did. And I was amazed to your point, well, it's not like we didn't know about them. We're just not teaching about them.
Right. Their story is not being taught in schools. And I get that you can't cover every individual achievement in NASA, but these were groundbreaking women. These were women, not just women, African-American women in the early 1960s who were holding positions that were reserved only for men, for white men with a certain amount of education. They broke barriers in education, they broke barriers in science, they broke barriers in engineering. And so I agree, like this story needs to be told.
Yeah, and if you think about the level of excellence that it would take to break those barriers, because if they weren't completely necessary, they wouldn't be there. It was because they could not do it without them that they were there, you know? And I think that that's what this movie captures so well. It's also obviously playing a little bit on words. Hidden figures, these are figures that you don't know about, that you haven't heard of. It's also about math, which is like, how do you make math fun? Watch the movie and find out. But the other thing that I thought it did really well was showed the daily, exhausting, mundane discrimination, just going to the bathroom, the challenges that they face, that especially Katherine faces, just trying to go to the bathroom every day at work.
And even just the way that society works, even people that think that they are progressive. There's a scene between Octavia Spencer and Kirsten Dunst where she says, I really don't have a problem with you. And Octavia Spencer says, it's great that you think that.
Well, yeah.
That's such a great moment because it really shows, like, even just day to day, that people that even think that they're not, being discriminatory in their own strange way, they just don't understand inherently the way that society works, that they're contributing to that system, especially in the 1960s, the early 60s, which is the birth of the civil rights movement.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's this idea of, I know you think you don't, but you really do. And I think towards the end of the movie, and I will say Kirsten Dunst plays a fantastic jerk in this movie, and she has no idea that she's a jerk. She thinks she's very well-intentioned, which is so great. Yeah. And then I think that Octavia Spencer and she have that moment, and she goes back and she recognizes, oh my God, I have been acting with extreme prejudice and completely unaware of it, which is kind of wonderful to see that unfold in the film. But let's talk about the main performances in this movie. Octavia Spencer is, like we were saying, the one getting a lot of the accolades. and she is tremendous.
Absolutely well deserved. But yeah, I agree. Like this is a movie that it's a great story, but great story doesn't always equal great movie. And I think this had the potential to be a really kind of roll your eyes on the nose type movie. And the fact, I think that the main trio of actors are the first strength that this movie has. They don't overplay anything. They don't try to tug the audience's emotions. They don't try to play the situation up. It's very grounded. It's very realistic. Octavia Spencer, yes, is the one that's getting buzz in the Oscar race. I was actually surprised that Taraji P. Henson is not getting more talk, because she is kind of the lead character in this movie, and she's the one that kind of has the biggest, and it is, I think, a great scene, this kind of explosion of frustration. And again, people just not being aware of what her day-to-day life was like. And when she finally breaks down and kind of lays out what happens to her every day that they don't even know, I think it was a fantastic scene and a fantastic performance. And Janelle Monae, who I think has the least to do in this movie, is great in this movie. She was also great in Moonlight. Yeah,
Janelle Monae is such a standout, breakout acting star. She's obviously already an incredibly talented singer. She is such a breakout actress this year between this and Moonlight. And she's in supporting. I'm a little surprised she hasn't gotten a little more buzz around supporting, but in any event. But Taraji P. Henson, we already know she's extraordinary, but I think that what this movie highlights once again is the range that she has, because there's a lot of actors who are great actors within a certain framework, right? They do a thing and they do it really well. But she has a massive range, and I think you really see it here. She's such a nerd, and in a great way. Like, she's just such a beautiful, wonderful, sweet, hardworking, brilliant nerd.
And for people that watch Empire,
it could not be more different than Cookie.
Exactly.
Except that she's strong.
Except that she's a strong character. But yeah, that's what struck me, was like, it took me a second to even realize, oh, that's Taraji P. Henson, because she's very, she has the glasses. She's very kind of like, her posture is different.
Yeah.
And I really liked how she inhabited that character. It really showed me more of what she can do. And I feel like this movie is when we talked to Leonard Maltin, when he was here, he talks about the crush of movies at the end of the year and how inevitably some get lost. And I think this is one that, would I put it in my top 10 of the year? I don't know if I would. I liked it a lot, but I think that there's some performances in this movie that are getting lost in the shuffle because it's one of 30 Oscar movies that all came out in a 10-day period at the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they are getting lost because of that. I do hope, look, if it's Octavia Spencer, I would like to see Taraji P. Henson get a little more attention here. But Octavia Spencer is also great. And the point is of these award shows, the real point is see the movies.
Yeah.
You just want them to get some attention so that more people will see them. I agree with you in the sense of, like, again, normally biographical films aren't my favorite thing. But and it probably wouldn't be in my top 10, but I still highly recommend that people go see this film this weekend, because not only will you learn something, but you'll be highly entertained as you do.
You will, and it's well acted, it's well written. The director, Theodore Amalfi, who did St. Vincent, which is another movie that I liked, he could be, he's really kind of developing a career of some kind of sneaky good movies, and I look forward to the next movie from him. But yeah, I agree. Like, this is, it kind of breaks that biopic mold. It breaks out of the kind of rote thing that biopics can be, and it's worth seeing, I think, again, just to see this story, and then I hope people see it and then go learn more. There's a book that this was based on that I'm sure goes into much more detail about these women. This is a very important story. It's a very interesting story. It's a movie that kept me entertained. It has some funny moments. It definitely has the dramatic moments. The third act had some things where I thought it got a little by the numbers, a bit Apollo 13-ish. But having said that, I really enjoyed this movie, and I would definitely recommend it.
I would highly recommend it. One of my favorite and most defining films of all time is The Right Stuff. And it was fascinating for me as somebody, I actually put, as a kid, pictures of jet planes on my wall because I was so into the movie and so delusional to think that one day I would be some kind of like fighter pilot and I would be Chuck Yeager. Still think I will be. This is a part of that story that I never knew, that I'm so glad that I now do. Entertaining, great acting, go see it. Mahershala Ali makes an appearance in this film, getting a lot of acclaim for Moonlight. Highly recommend it, see the movie.
And if you're a fan of science, also great for the space race.
If you like the science.
Yep. Thanks for watching our review of Hidden Figures. If you want to see even more great stuff from Screen Junkies News, check out one of these things over here. I like that one. This week, I think that one's my favorite. And as always, Roth and I will be back as often as we can to talk even more about some of the great movies coming out in 2017. Thanks for watching.